Now we go to East Africa, where politics there, in Kenya in particular, is a game of musical chairs. Allies today are likely to be political rivals tomorrow. And that is the case now with presidential candidate forerunners, Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. SABC's Sarah Kimani has the details.
Campaigns for the succession of Uhuru Kenyatta are on the home stretch. There are 4 presidential candidates, but opinion polls have put Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga as frontrunners. So this week, the SABC sat down with both candidates. We began by asking each of them why they're running for the country's presidency.
I think where the country is at the moment, I am probably the only person who understands where we are and understands where we need to go, and with a plan to get us there.
I think the people want me to run because they feel that injustice has been done to me and also what I represent.
Odinga is running for the 5th time. In the past 4 elections, the former Prime Minister has contested the outcomes on claims of rigging. In the 2017 general elections, the Supreme Court of Kenya agreed with this petition and nullified the outcome of the polls and ordered fresh presidential elections over what it ruled as illegalities and irregularities. Odinga says the Independent Elections and Boundaries Commission must work towards free, fair and credible elections. In their political manifestos, both Odinga and Ruto have promised to prioritize food security, job creation, the fight against corruption and manufacturing, if elected. What they differ on is how to go about it. With the country undergoing an economic crisis, whoever wins will find themselves hard-pressed to cut the cost of living even before they can begin to tackle their development agendas for Kenya, East Africa's biggest economy. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
All right, so things heating up in East Africa and Kenya. Hotly contested these elections are always. Well, to give us some analysis, we're now joined by Joshua Changwony, who's the Executive Director of the Civic Education for Constitution Awareness and Reforms in Kenya. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Well, the countdown has begun and it's fever pitch, I guess, in terms of campaigning and electioneering. What's your assessment of the current climate in terms of the process towards the polls? Please unmute yourself.
Apologies for that.
Yes. You're still muted.
You can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. All right, it's gone again. Just press that unmute button.
Okay. It remains 15 days to the 9 August 2022 general elections. And we have 22.1 million voters who are waiting to participate in the general elections, spread across 46,233 polling stations. And Kenyans are actively following discussions around the debates. Last week, we had the running mates debate. And next week, on the 26th, we are going to have the presidential debate in our country, and Kenyans are yearning. And statistics by the Media Council of Kenya, by following of the majority audience for the running mate debate, showed that 34 million Kenyans followed the show. But now, as we gear towards this election day, that is the 9th of August 2022, there is the issue of the technology, the KIMS kit, it is abbreviated, which is the Kenya Integrated Elections Management System, which is very critical component in voter registration, audit of the voters register, voter identification, control of voting, as well as also results transmission. But there are issues that are now being debated about by Kenyans and even observers, the people who would want to see that the elections are free and fair. And the Electoral Commission is being asked as to the testing of and the functionality of these technology devices, so that it is clearly understood on how it is going to identify the voters and how it's going to be used in the different polling stations. And IEBC last week did another simulation on the results transmission, and it had a success rate of 92%, which was a great improvement from the first simulation, which was done about 2 weeks ago. And for us, we think that is very commendable, just to inspire confidence and trust among the voters of Kenya, so that they believe that whatever is going to happen on the election day is going to culminate into a free and fair elections. And then the other bit is the voters register. I mean, the voters register is very critical, because voters are going to participate in voting when they know that their details are accurate, up to date, complete, and there will be no errors around it. But we know that the Commission has not published publicly the voters register, and Kenyans are waiting for the release of the voters register. The IEBC, or the Electoral Commission, has announced the number of voters and the per regions and the constituencies and the counties, but per polling station is what Kenyans are waiting for, because that is what will be used in the polling station. As observers and the civil society specifically, we continue to monitor the situation, including electoral violence, electoral offences, and the participation in campaigns by candidates and the supporters. But we've witnessed calm, save for pockets of violence from which are registered, and the police have actively engaged in terms of restoring order in those places which has had incidences. But when you compare with the 2013 and 2017 general elections, because this is a transitional election, a president is leaving, a term of office, and we are ushering in a new regime, just like in the year 2013. I think this election has attracted a lot of attention among Kenyans, regardless of just having the fewest number of presidential candidates. And then the last bit is that we continue to see, widespread of disinformation and misinformation in the use of this as campaign strategy in this election. And the online spaces are the ones that are used in most cases, where candidates employ people who can draft messages to mislead the opponent's supporters. And we continue tracking that and discourage, because in some cases it has caused tension and even lowered the trust of the Electoral Commission.
All right. So as an observer, so far, I mean, 2 weeks is still quite a bit of time. A lot can still happen. But at this moment, are you comfortable that a credible election looks likely?
We are comfortable in the sense that any information that we requested to get from the Commission is availed. But what we are calling upon the Commission to do is to be proactive in providing the information that is required by the public, not to wait until observers or the media does as requests of this information. There is still need for active engagement and involvement of other stakeholders, such as the media, the candidates, as well as also political parties by the Electoral Commission. And that is something that we've observed and even encouraged the Commission to proactively do that, so that we avoid pockets of incidences where probably perceptions are built around lack of transparency, because this thing has to be made in a way that the voters see that there's transparency and accountability on the part of the Electoral Commission and other stakeholders such as the National Police Service, the media, the observers, and the political party agents.
Is it unusual that so soon before the elections that voter registration documents are not readily available?
I think from our assessment and even looking on the previous elections, the Electoral Commission has not released these documents way in advance before the elections. They have waited until probably close to 1 week remaining to the election day. But I think it would be important for the release of these documents way in advance as per our recommendations post the 2017 general election, so that voters would prepare themselves and even know whether their details, the biometrics and the biographics are captured properly in the voters' lists for the various polling stations. I know it is a concern, but it's not peculiar, because we saw that in 2013, 2017 in terms of delay. But as per the announcement of the Electoral Commission, they said that the 22.1 million registered voters are captured in the voters' register. But in an electoral environment, seeing is believing.
All right. You said that the issues of violence have not been significant this time around. There were fears that there could be quite a bit of disturbance. Are you quietly optimistic that the trend will continue, that this won't see an escalation in the coming days?
For this year's general elections, the conversations around electoral violence would not take the line of ethnic antagonism, as we've seen in the past elections in our country. I think Kenyan voters have learned lessons from the previous elections, where the high level of tolerance, even the 4 presidential candidates were made to sign an electoral code of conduct and peaceful campaigns, and restrain their supporters not to engage in any violence. But for this year, the triggers might be different. We have unaddressed issues from the political party primaries, where there were many candidates who felt aggrieved. Either they were rigged, or they felt like the party primaries was not handled in a way that was very satisfactory, and they shifted their candidature into independent tickets. And there are quite a number of them in our country. Even these incidences that I've mentioned, that there are few or pockets of them around the country, are incidences where it happened in the stronghold of political parties, and the independent candidates have become more stronger than those ones that are being sponsored by the political parties. And you can see it is just a strategy by some of the politicians to use hooliganism to engage in violence. But as to the previous precipitators or triggers of violence, which have taken along the lines of ethnicity, in my own assessment, it may not take the ethnic lines as we've seen in the previous elections, because when you look at the kind of the debates that are ongoing, you would see that there's some level of maturity in terms of conversations around who is the best candidate for election. And even you can see the varying opinion polls rating every week is not constant. You would see that even the debates that are ongoing is really informing the public debates and the decisions in terms of rating of the candidates.
All right, this is encouraging, and let's hope that it holds. Mr. Changwony, thank you so much indeed for joining us. I'm sure we'll be having more conversations in the coming days. Thanks for your time.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much.
All right, that's Joshua Changwony, who's the Executive Director of the Civic Education for Constitution Awareness and Reforms in Kenya, speaking to us ahead of elections due literally in a few weeks.